10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 32. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. My name is Nick Manella, and I will be guiding you through the lesson today. We want to thank you all so much for tuning in to the show, and we hope that you are gaining something from all these lessons that we're putting out every week. So a couple of housekeeping things first. First thing is, if you're enjoying the show and you've got 2 seconds of free time, please jump on iTunes and leave us a rating and review. That really helps us to get the podcast into the hands of more people that could use it. And we also want to encourage you to go to our website. If you don't know, if you're new to the show, every single week there's a free PDF file that accompanies each episode at our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com. That's the number 10minutejazzlesson.com. And you could also find a lot of really cool stuff there. We've got our blog, we've got our resources section. If you're looking for Skype improvisation lessons, you can sign up for them there, and I'd be happy to meet with you online to achieve your goals. And we also have a store on the website where you can find a lot of really cool stuff. And anything you buy at that store goes back to supporting the podcast and making sure that we can get you a great jazz lesson every week. Now, I also wanted to encourage all of our listeners to go onto our website, find the PayPal button, and set up a recurring monthly payment to show your support for the podcast. Suggested donation would be $5 a month. That comes out to $1.25 an episode. So if you think that each one of these episodes is worth, $1.25 of your hard-earned money, please go and sign up for that monthly recurring donation to keep the podcast going. All right, let's jump into today's lesson. So today I wanted to talk to you about what I believe is one of the most important tunes in the jazz canon for every single musician to know. And that tune is Cherokee, written by Ray Noble. Now, undoubtedly, you've probably heard of this tune before. There's so many famous recordings of this tune, but I want to talk about why everybody seems to put this tune on a pedestal and really make sure that they know it inside and out. I really think that Cherokee is right up there with, the blues and rhythm changes as a tune that every single person needs to know. And the problem is that this tune is, it's intimidating. There's a lot going on in this tune. It's typically played at very, very fast tempos. But I'm here to tell you today why it's so important, and you don't have to start out by playing it at a super fast tempo. In fact, I really suggest that you start it at a super slow tempo to start to really get into the changes and realize exactly what's going on. But it is true that this is one of the most important progressions, and it also provides us an amazing vehicle to practice so many things just because of the way that the changes are set up. So let's jump into a little bit of analysis on why this tune is important and what in it can really help you solidify a lot of concepts in your playing. So we want to start with the form of it. The form of this tune is simply AABA. Now, it's a little bit different than most AABA tunes. Most AABA tunes, typically you see, are 32 bars, so that each section is about 8 bars long, and you get to the end of the form in 32 bars. That's probably one of the most common progressions or tune structures in all of jazz. So Cherokee's spread out a little bit more. Each section is actually 16 measures in this tune. So instead of a 32-bar tune, you get a 64-bar tune. And when it's played very, very fast, you don't really notice it. But when you actually settle down to start working on this tune, you really, wow, there's a lot of changes. And that's one of the things that the 64 bars allows is a lot more chord changes to be fit in the form of the tune. So we mentioned that it's AABA. Now what that means is that the A sections are all going to be relatively the same. Besides the last 4 bars, we're going to be looking at A sections that repeat themselves. After all, that's why we can call them all A sections, because they're very, very similar. So let's talk about the A section real quick. So typically this tune is played in the key of concert B flat. So in the first bar, you have the 1 chord, B flat major 7. Then in the third bar, we see ourselves going to the key of E flat major, which happens in bar 5, but we get there via a 2-5-1. So you can already see that this is using some important chord progressions to get where we're going. Now, we go to the 4 of 4, which eventually leads us back to the 1 chord in bar 9. Then we get a dominant 2 chord in bar 11. That moves into a minor 2 chord, and then you have a 5 of 2. Now, I know this can be getting confusing for some of you guys, but if you really look at it, it makes a lot of sense. So what I mean by 5 of 2 is that when we go to the 2 chord, that becomes actually the new key that we're in. So now we're in the key of C minor, and then it jumps to a G7 chord, so that is the 5 of 2. Then in bar 14 and 15, we see a 2-5 going back to 1 at the top of the tune. So that is the first A section. Now, the only thing that's different about the second A section is the last 4 bars, bars 13 through 16. Instead of doing that 2 chord and that 5 of 2, what we do is simply just do a 2-5-1. in the key of B flat major. So there's our A sections. They're actually not that complicated, but there's still a lot going on in there. There's a lot of different changes in there. Now, let's go to the bridge, because this is the real kind of genius of this tune. So in the bridge, the first thing that we see is we see a 2-5 to the key of B major. So that is like about as far away from B flat major as you can get. So you can see that there's a lot of key changes happening. And then basically the bridge is going to go through 3 different keys. So it's going to go through B major, then A major, then G major in rapid succession. Each one of those keys will get 4 bars. So it's a 2-5-1 to B major, a 2-5-1 to A major, and a 2-5-1 to G major, descending in whole steps. So that's a lot of different keys. If you factor in the A sections, we're really moving through a lot of different keys, which gives us a chance to work on our vocabulary or whatever we're working on in a bunch of different keys. And then at the end of the bridge, we see a 2-5-1 back to the key of B flat. So if you add up all of the different key centers in Cherokee, it comes out to actually 5 different keys that we're playing through. So you could see that if you were working on vocabulary or something like that, you would actually get to put it in almost half of the keys, and you're just playing Cherokee in 1 key. Now, here's something a little bit more advanced that can really, really help you if you're ready for it. Imagine practicing this tune in all 12 keys. And imagine what that would do for your playing. You have to get through those 5 different key centers, but you're actually doing the tune in all 12 keys. So that would really, really teach you how to get around some of these 2-5-1 progressions. A lot of these dominant chords, this tune contains a ton of dominant chords, which, as you all know, is one of the most important chords in jazz. So if you were to start to put this in all 12 keys, now I'm not talking about going through all 12 keys in one day. Eventually, you might be able to work up to that. But what I do is I work on it in a certain key for a week, and then the next week I'll put it in the next key, so on and so forth. And I have it actually printed out in all 12 keys, just the chord changes, so that I have a point of reference. So imagine doing that. Imagine what that could do for your playing. So I want to give you one actionable step that you can do with this tune, and it's actually what I'm working on right now. So what I'm working on is playing lines over dominant chords that contain a lot of chromaticism in them and contain a lot of chromatic approaches to chord tones and things like that. So what I do is I take whatever line I'm working on, usually it's a different one every week. I usually work on 1, 2, or 3 every single week, and then on to the next one. So I'm going to give you the one particular one that I'm working on this week. Now, what I've also been practicing that might be new for some of you is when I play over a 2-5-1, I disregard the minor chord, and I'm playing it like it's the dominant 5 chord the entire time. And this gives me a different way to approach 2-5-1s. I feel like it's made me a little bit more creative in the past couple of weeks, because I'm not necessarily being really hard on myself to nail the minor key, nail the dominant key, then nail the major key. I'm thinking about dominant the whole time because dominant is really the one that pulls us back to the one chord. So let me play the line that I have been working on for you. So it has a lot of chromaticism in it, and it's actually a great thing to play over a 2-5-1 progression, even though I'm really only considering the dominant chord while I'm playing it. So check out how great of a vehicle Cherokee is for practicing this piece of vocabulary in a whole bunch of different keys and in a whole bunch of different situations. It really will help me solidify this line into my playing because I have to go through so many keys. It's kind of a tour de force of keys that I need to be able to play this line through in order to be able to get through Cherokee. So here is the line superimposed in every single place that I can possibly put it in the tune Cherokee. So you can hear exactly how many opportunities I had to play that line while I was going through one time through the progression of Cherokee. And, you know, for a tune that's technically in the key of B flat major, think about those keys that I'm coming across in the bridge. I mean, they're about as far away from B flat major as you can get. So it's not your typical tune that just kind of stays in the same key all the way throughout. You're really getting a workout in all the different keys. So I've written out that particular line that I've just played for you in the PDF for this week. And I've also included the chord progression to Cherokee in the PDF for this week. So make sure you go and get both of those and then maybe listen to the chorus I just played again while studying the line and then studying the chord progression that it's going through. And then you can see exactly how many different keys I ended up playing it in. So good luck on this. Remember, don't play it as fast as I did. I was playing it a little bit over 200 BPM. Don't do it there. Make sure you start very, very, very slow, or else this tune will be too intimidating for you, and you'll definitely lose interest in playing it over it if it's super, super hard. So take your time. I didn't learn how to play over Cherokee overnight, and neither will you. So better to realize that before you get started than trying to go at, 300 BPM or something like that right off the bat. Okay, that does it for this week. We will see you guys next week. Remember, please show your support for the podcast by making a monthly donation to us. We would really appreciate it. If you got 2 seconds, leave us a rating and review and go and check out the website. All right, have a great week, everybody. I hope that episode benefited you in some way, and we'll see you next week.